Imagine working your whole life in a job you love, and then someone you trusted suddenly breaks the rules. Now imagine that person becomes a huge star while your trust is completely shattered. That is exactly what happened between Carson and Joan Rivers, and it caused one of the biggest Hollywood feuds ever. But what really happened? Why did Carson never forgive Joan Rivers? You are about to find out. To understand this story, we need to go back to the 1960s and 70s. Carson was not just a host, he was The Tonight Show. Millions of Americans watched him every night, and being invited on his show could make or break a comedian's career. One comedian who caught his eye early on was Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers was funny, bold, and fearless. She had a style that stood out in a world full of male comedians. Carson noticed her talent and gave her a huge opportunity to perform on The Tonight Show. This was a big deal. For Joan, it was the chance of a lifetime. Johnny saw potential in Joan. He even became a mentor to her. He gave her advice, helped her shape her comedy, and encouraged her to push boundaries. Joan Rivers herself said that Johnny was a major influence in her career. Things were going well until the 1980s. Here is where things went wrong. In 1986, Joan Rivers was offered her own talk show on a competing network called Fox. This was huge. She was stepping out of Johnny's shadow and moving into a spotlight of her own. But there was a problem. Carson had a rule, one he expected all his comedians to follow. He did not like anyone leaving The Tonight Show for another late-night show. To him, it was more than just a rule, it was about loyalty and respect. When Joan signed with Fox, Johnny felt that she had betrayed him. Joan probably thought she was just taking a big career step. But Carson saw it as a personal betrayal. In his mind, Joan had broken the trust he had given her. And from that moment, he reportedly refused to speak to her again. Some people say Johnny was harsh, even unfair. After all, Joan Rivers became one of the biggest stars on television. But Johnny was not just upset about the career move. He felt that Joan had used the platform he built to start her own empire without showing gratitude. He believed she did not honor the bond they had. And for him, that bond was everything. The media noticed the tension. Reporters asked Joan about Johnny, and she said she still respected him. But there was no reconciliation. Even when she became a household name and a pioneer for women in comedy, Carson never publicly forgave her. That is why this story is not just about fame, it is about trust, loyalty, and what happens when personal and professional lines get crossed. Joan Rivers herself once admitted that losing Johnny's friendship was one of the saddest moments of her career. She had gained so much success, but it came with a cost. She would tell funny, sharp jokes to the world, but behind the cameras, a mentorship and friendship had ended forever. This feud shows us that in show business, it is not always the fame or money that matters. Sometimes, it is the relationships we build and the trust we share. Carson could forgive many mistakes, but for him, Joan crossing that line was unforgivable. Some say it was stubbornness, some say it was principle, but either way, history remembers it as one of television's most famous fallouts. Think about it, Joan Rivers went on to inspire generations of comedians, especially women. And Carson? He remained a legend, shaping late-night television for decades. Both changed the world of comedy, but their friendship never recovered. And that is the real reason Carson never forgave Joan Rivers. So next time you watch a late-night show, remember this story. It is not just about who is funny or who is famous, it is about respect, loyalty, and the choices we make when opportunity knocks. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, stay tuned for more behind-the-scenes tales from the world of television and comedy.